Welcome to the Never 9 to 5 podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Hansen, and I'm an entrepreneur with a track record of multiple six-figure revenue years. It's my passion to help women entrepreneurs rediscover their feminine energy flow and incorporate it into their daily lives to flourish in peace and prosper. In my podcast, we'll go deeper into topics surrounding feminine energy seasons and productivity, boundary setting, the energy of money, and so much more. I'm so happy that you've chosen to be here with me today. Now let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to the Never 9 to 5 podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Hansen. I am so excited to be back with you today. So I've decided to, from this podcast forward, I'm making a bit of a energetic and directional shift in the podcast. So originally, I wanted to focus on just general business, sales, and marketing advice for women, as well as, how to build your dream life in entrepreneurship to do things such as living abroad or whatever your heart desires. And I still want to go in that direction. However, I'm leaning more into things that feel good to me and that are very important to me and have been very, very instrumental in my development and my success as an entrepreneur. So with that being said, I guess you could say the title I'm using is Intuitive Business Mentor. So to break that down, what that means is I really want to help women dive into and open up their feminine energy and use their feminine energy as a tool to help with their entrepreneurial success and ultimately pure happiness and bliss. I really want women to just feel bliss in their daily lives and in their career choices. The reason that I'm making this transition, like I mentioned before, is because that is exactly what I have done to the vibrational, energetic, and mental place that I am in right now. I'm certainly nowhere near where I want to be or where I think optimal bliss is, but I feel so much better and I feel like I have so much more control over my career, over my days. I feel much more balanced as an entrepreneur. So I kind of feel like what's most important when I'm talking about coming into this energetic space and leading from this space is talking about my journey to finding and discovering these tools, my journey to living more in my feminine energy and living more in my energetic seasons. So I honestly credit this part of my development to my diagnosis with a hormonal disorder, my diagnosis with polycystic ovarian syndrome or PCOS. And it's really strange because it's honestly the most shitty hormonal disorder. I'm sure any woman who has it could say the same thing. But in a way, it has really forced me to be introspective, to look deep into myself, my life, my patterns, my behavior, and redefine happiness for me and rebuild habits and routines to, align with how I'm going to find happiness with a disorder that can really wreck you mentally and physically. So I'll start at the beginning. I'll give a brief overview of my entrepreneurial journey. So in May 2019, about 4 years ago, where I'm coming up on my 4-year business anniversary with my social media agency. But in 2019, I quit my job and started freelancing full-time as a social media manager, digital marketer, etc. And at that point in time, I only had the direction and the guidance of the girl bosses of society. It was the big girl boss era. So Jenna Kutcher, Sophia Amoruso, these kinds of women. And for me, the feminine energy that they were portraying and the just overall feminism and entrepreneurship that they were portraying was very fake. It was not very authentic. It was still like that hustle, work hard bullshit. And something I've learned over this journey and this self-development is that hustle culture is such bullshit, and it's just meant to make you feel like a hamster, and no one is meant to feel like that. But anyways, so that's who I was really like paying attention to and listening to a lot and trying to build a business model around. And my first month in business, I made $350. So you can imagine the panic that begins to set in once you've made that big decision of leaving your full-time job and jumping into something new and having it not go amazing right out of the gate. Even though now that I've been doing this for a while, I realize like that's very normal and very okay. It's part of the process, but terrified to fail. I'm naturally a perfectionist. I didn't want to feel ashamed. So many people knew by that point that I had made the jump. So it was like, if I fail, like a lot of people are going to know. I didn't want to embarrass my parents, my family, just anything. I was scared to be ashamed and embarrassed. So I was just constantly working around the clock, not taking really any breaks, just waiting, just trying to get that big break with work. And honestly, you have to do that sometimes with like your very first business. If it's, your only form of income, you do have to kind of, jump into that work mode in the beginning, just to set yourself up to be able to work in a better flow later on, get your systems set up, get your marketing set up. Like it is a lot at once. I will not deny that. And it is necessary in some energetic seasons of life, right? But not all the time. So that's kind of where my problem came in. It was all of the time for me. I never took breaks. I rarely socialized. I was so stressed all the time. I was very moody. I was, having mental breakdowns once a week. Like it was a really, really bad space. But eventually, things started to add up for me. In February of 2020, I was able to finally rent my own apartment, move out of my parents' house. I had like doubled the income from my first job, which really wasn't that hard because they hardly paid me anything. That's besides the point. But I finally, felt like, okay, like I can make this work. I'm in my own space now. I'm feeling better, more confident about myself and my success. And I think, I'm finally getting some traction. So like I said, that was February 2020. So you can imagine what happened in March of 2020. The world came to a pause and I was terrified. With COVID, I was like, what does this mean for my business? Like I literally just took so many leaps in the past few months to be where I am today. And I really can't afford to have things go wrong right now. Like that's not an option. So that was terrifying for me. And I did what most people do when March 2020 happened. There's nothing to do. Everything was closed. No one was, hanging out with each other because of not wanting to spread things. Like I really only hung out with my family once or twice a week because they lived like 5 minutes down the road. So I really just worked all the time. I would wake up early and on an empty stomach would go for a run, like a 30-minute run. And then I would come home and I would fast, which is like a whole nother episode about how fasting is so horrible for women's hormones and how pretty much all of the research on the benefits of fasting have been done on men. I digress, but I was fasting. I would drink 4 big glasses of cold brew coffee on an empty stomach before I would finally eat at noon or 1 p.m. I was eating pretty restrictive. I've always, had battles with body image and yo-yo dieting and all of that. So I was eating pretty restrictive, would just sit and work all day. If I did do a workout, it was really intense because I felt like, I'm going to get out of shape, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't sleeping a lot. I was consuming a lot of nicotine. I would sit at home and vape all day while I was working. Again, I'm just you can just, now that I'm sitting here, you can just see the compounding of horrible things for women's hormones adding up. And that's what I did. And I started to notice a shift in my body. I felt like I was getting a little softer, having a bit more breakouts. I was very stressed all the time. I was very emotional and moody. And in September of 2020, I moved to Chicago with some family, and I just felt moving is a very stressful thing. I was excited to go, but moving is stressful. And I just felt my stress and anxiety levels just rise and rise. By that point, I had probably gained like 25 pounds in a matter of 2 or 3 months. It wasn't really from sitting and eating junk food and not moving my body. I had no idea why this was happening so quickly. I started getting horrible cystic acne, my hair was falling out. My stress was so bad I would wake up with a stomach ache and would feel like vomiting. I was so anxious all the time, it just sat in my stomach and I felt sick from it. And I just felt like I had no autonomy over my body. And so while all this is happening, one, I'm thinking, okay, I need to kick it into gear. I need to increase my diet. I need to work out more. I need to do XYZ. And so my immediate response was, I need to do more. To fix this. I need to fix it. I'm a fixer. I'm a perfectionist. I want things to be perfect. I've done it before. I had lost weight before and maintained it. There should be no issue with me managing this. I've had bad skin before. I can fix it, blah, blah, blah. I'm fix. I need, I just added on to the stress I was already having while also running a business in an economy that was shit, right? And being a new business owner, and then also trying to deal with body changes. And I really didn't make the connection between the stresses that I'm putting on myself by trying to work in this traditional entrepreneurship roadmap, which really serves, men better. It's a roadmap that's created by men that tried to be feminized by the girl boss era, but it was still a roadmap that works better for men and male hormones, etc. I was trying to work in this and just not realizing that there's this major connection between the stress that I was putting on myself by living so much of my masculine energy every day and working in a masculine energy and not really allowing feminine energy to come in through my work and into my daily life, and how much that was connecting with then how I was treating myself and my body, and how all of these things were affecting my hormones and my overall happiness and balance and whatnot. So this went on for many months. I tried to, like I said, fix things myself. Obviously, it wasn't going well, and also something to learn about hormones is they take a very long time to heal, minimum 6 months, to start seeing movement with fixing hormones. I didn't even know if I had a hormone problem at that point because I hadn't gone to a doctor yet. So finally in March 2020, I went to a doctor. We did a blood test and saw that my DHEAS hormone levels were incredibly high. It was I can't remember, it was in the upper 400s. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be much, much, much lower than that. I don't have the exact numbers on me. And something about that, when that hormone is really high, it's directly related to cortisol levels. So that would be it's directly related to your stress. And so seeing that hormone just through the roof, and also knowing that I was experiencing intense anxiety and stress all the time, that makes sense, right? So my emotional symptoms were combined with my physical symptoms, which that's how the human body works. Things become intertwined, and emotions can be direct cause of certain physical symptoms and vice versa. So I began seeing an endocrinologist. I felt a bit of relief because it was okay, I have a diagnosis, so I can work on this. Now I know I have PCOS, and now I can take the medicine and things will get better. And so that's how I tried to act. I, took the medicine. I was okay, that's enough. I tried to do some internet research on other ways I could help, but I didn't change much about my career journey and what I was doing in my day-to-day work. That really stayed the same. I really stayed in my masculine energy, and just was I'm gonna take the medicine now and it's gonna be great. And that's just not enough, especially for women, especially for hormonal disorders. You have to make a complete lifestyle change to help your symptoms and begin to feel better. So I was taking the medicine, and the summer of 2021, so I don't know if I messed up the dates, but in the March of 2021 is when I saw the doctor, got the blood tests, was diagnosed, etc. So then from there all the way through summer 2021, I was still very very stressed, like not in a good place, feeling low about my body still. Like I had gotten my acne to clear up, but that was pretty much it. I feel like I couldn't lose weight, blah, blah, blah. And it was not like, oh, like I need to lose weight. It was more like I was just putting too much importance on my body and on the way I looked compared to how I looked before, and not giving myself grace for my body changing and learning how to love myself in different phases. So the end goal of this whole journey is not, oh, I lost a bunch of weight, now I feel better. The end goal is learning how to love and live in the changes of your body and changes of your life, right? So had a really shit summer of 2021, and I knew I needed a change. Like I just wanted to be in a different environment, to just kind of take a break for a while. I felt like the past year and a half had been tumultuous for me, and I just needed to step away for a bit. So September 1st, my apartment lease ended. I had packed up everything into my apartment in Chicago and put it in storage. And that was the first time I actually came to Marseille, was September through November of 2021. And it was great, great weather, living by the ocean. And so it was a good mental break just from the space that I had been in before. However, during that time, I still didn't really do a lot to make changes in my lifestyle and most importantly, in my day-to-day work life. Like I was still doing all of the work, not asking for help, living in a scarcity mindset, so being afraid to give work to contractors and doing most of it myself, bending over backwards for clients in fear that they would leave and I would not get new clients, working with people I didn't really like. I had changed my settings and like my physical surroundings, and that felt good for the moment, but I hadn't really done anything to help my entrepreneurial work-life balance, and again bringing more feminine energy into it, and also working in my energetic seasons. Like that stayed the same. So of course, when I left Marseille in November and went back to the US, it's like I came back to my old life and things just went back to how they were. I landed a lot of new contracts, but they were really stressful and with people that really abused my time and my skills and did not respect me or appreciate me. So from like December 2021 through March 2022, I was just like falling back to even worse lifestyle. I could not sleep to save my life. I had gained more weight. I just felt like I had zero energy, obviously. And even if I did sleep, I would wake up and still be absolutely exhausted, as if I hadn't slept at all. I would work from like 7:30 a.m. to like 8 p.m. every night. I wasn't socializing. Like it was a mess. It was worse than it had been before I went to France, because I still hadn't made an effort to change things within my life. So I actually physically hit burnout, and it felt like my mind just turned off. I broke and I was numb, and I knew that I literally had to do something and help myself, or else everything was going to go down the shitter. I was going to lose everything, and then I'd be in an even worse situation and not have the energy, the mental capacity to help myself. It was a do or die moment. So I finally, caved in. At that time, I felt like caving in. I hired some people to kind of be like my right hand people, lead my team, work with clients, etc. So I could take a step back from so much client communication, because I'm an introvert, and having to communicate with clients all day, every day, especially when they're being snappy and rude sometimes because they're not energetic matches, it killed me. It killed my energy. It drained me. So hiring someone to do that, like automatically I felt like a lift. I started working with a therapist twice a month just to talk through some of the feelings I was feeling and help create new boundaries for myself. Eventually, I started taking an antidepressant / anti-anxiety medication, and this just helped me to feel not so overwhelmed and not feel so much like I needed to change and fix everything myself. Because something you'll find in my content, in my services on my page, is that I am not anti medicine or traditional medicine, Western medicine, etc. We are humans, and sometimes we have chemical imbalances or illnesses that we could feel so much relief simply by taking advantage of the resources and of modern medicine to help us feel better. So if you are clinically depressed or anxious, no amount of walks, no amount of meditating, no amount of vacations is going to take it away. Like, you have a chemical imbalance in your brain, and that's okay. And you can feel so much relief and start to, live a much more fulfilled life by taking advantage of medicine. So don't ever feel shamed out of that. With my hormonal disorder, I still take medicine for that, as well as make lifestyle changes. Everything is a balance. You can take medicine and also make lifestyle changes and feel overall better. So I started taking some medicine for that, and just have felt like day and night better. And what did I do? I also just started with my free time, diving back into things that make me feel good. So I really started focusing on what I was eating from day to day. I started focusing on taking more walks and being outside more. I started focusing more on getting really great sleep quality. Above anything, sleep is everything for everyone, especially for women. Women need a lot of sleep to recover and to keep our hormones happy. So I started, really focusing on sleeping better, less screen time, just doing exercises that felt good for me, socializing more, and just enjoying my life more. And honestly, from April, like the change I felt from March 2022 to April 2022 was massive. Like, I felt like I could breathe again. I felt amazing. I felt like I could handle things, and it wasn't crushing me anymore. And it was so necessary, because especially with feeling that burnout, like I needed that extra help at work. I needed that sleep. I needed that therapy. I needed, medicine to help me. And that's when I felt a great shift. And pretty much for the past year, from April 2022, now we're in April 2023, I've just been leaning more and more into bringing feminine energy, working in my energetic cycles, the guilt that comes along with when you're not being productive, trying to work on why I feel that, and focusing on why I shouldn't feel that. So rest, and just like basking in rest and loving rest, and days where I don't do anything and being okay with it. I moved back to France, obviously, because I did still feel an energetic shift here, and it works better with my schedule, like how I work. I've noticed with myself is that I'm most stressed out in the mornings. So in the US, when I would wake up and right away be getting messages and calls and needing to fix this and that did not help my stress and my cortisol levels, which then made my PCOS symptoms worse. And that's also why I don't work out in the mornings, because I'm already generally on a bit more of a high alert. I don't know why. I just wake up a little more tightly wound. So I don't work out in the mornings, because that's not good for where my headspace is. I eat breakfast in the mornings. I don't fast anymore. I meditate in the mornings, even if it's 5 minutes. I meditate on my patio with the sun facing the Notre Dame, and it's bliss. I meditate, I drink tea, I journal. It's very quick. I don't have this hour-long wellness journey. Honestly, I wish I could, and maybe I will, but it's quick. I do that, and then I cook, I listen to some podcasts. I really give myself time to get in the groove, but that took a long time for me to get to where I am today. And then I work, and I'll take breaks, and there was a day this past week where I just wasn't vibing with any work, any of the projects I was doing, so I just didn't work. And that's okay, because the world didn't stop, and I knew that I was going to have a day in the next few days when I would feel like working. It's Sunday, and I'm like, wow, I have all these ideas, I want to plan, I want to work, and that's fine. I'm working on this project, which is new and exciting for me. I didn't feel like working on anything last Thursday, and I did it, but now it's Sunday and I'm working. And that's the best part about working in your energetic seasons and fine-tuning your routine to work with your energy, to give space for rest, to balance your hormones is because you get to work when you feel like working and you're still as equally productive and successful. And that has really been the overarching theme, and like why I think my early stages of stress and my diagnosis with PCOS for getting me to where I am today. Because if it wasn't for a diagnosis, if it wasn't for going through all those things, I don't think I would have ever changed. I don't think I would have ever stopped and said, okay, like this is out of control. I have no autonomy over what's happening. And if I don't do something, like I'm scared of where I'm gonna go. I would have never had that come to Jesus moment without facing that diagnosis. And not every woman is going to be diagnosed with something. Not everyone's stress is going to physically manifest itself as a disorder, as a disease. And I wouldn't hope that on anyone. It does happen, but that's not everyone's story. But I do just want, I want women to start now with diving more into their feminine energy, finding moments in the day to be in that energy space, learning more about your energetic seasons, allowing yourself rest, allowing yourself days where it's like usually a rest day, like where you can be productive, saying fuck it to traditional work calendars. I want women to start doing that as soon as possible so that they don't have to go through the emotional and physical trauma of what I have been through. I want them to, if they're just starting a business or they're just stepping into a huge leadership role or whatever it is, I want you to start thinking about how you can bring this overarching theme of feminine and masculine energy balance, rest, energetic seasons and cycles into your workspace so that you can avoid the intense and serious pain that I had felt. And that's really the passion behind what I'm doing now and the passion behind the shift that's happening on this account. And I just want to help women feel their most fulfilled, blissed out lives. And when I first started this page, like part of that was I wanted to help women build their dream lives, especially like for me, it was living abroad. And that's still it. That's a big part of what I'm doing. That's still it. It's just through this lens that I think is so needed and much better for women right now. So that's my story of how I got to where I am today and why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing. I would love if you could rate the episode and leave a review. That really helps me reach even more women. If you found the story touching and you have someone in your life who needs to hear it, please share it with them. I just really want to get this message out to women. My goal is really just to reach as many women as possible and change as many lives as possible in that sense. So thank you for being here, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.